A huge thank you to Brad. Brad is the brainchild behind our GRIT, our asset inventory, and we're fortunate to have an hour and a half with him today to go through where we've been, what we've got going, and what we'll see in the future for our asset inventory program. And then Brad did just unveil, if you see on the left-hand side of your screen, a new GRIT brochure. We'll have that online too. And that's something that's really handy to hand off to your commissioners and the public as they look at data and need to get an idea of how to look at the data, how to read the data, and how to plan for the future. So watch for that also. We'll be posting this video online, so that you'll have. The recording and the handout will be on the LMS, and that'll happen shortly. A few cleanup items, housekeeping items. You'll be in the listen-only mode. Your computer systems, your speakers are going to provide the audio, and then your ability to interact will be through the Q&A feature. Ask a question, add a comment. Please jump in at any time. We'll be helping Brad grab your thoughts and questions and interject when he can best answer. We'll also leave some time at the end of the session for question and answer. This is for you. This webinar is to help you understand the asset system. Just a little bit of background. We started this, we launched it in August of 2015, and it is a long-term commitment from the legislative body, and they're funding it so that all of our counties, big and small, have one unified platform for asset understanding so that we're comparing everybody correctly and we can best manage our whole roadway network. So kudos, and please pass on thanks to the legislators for being so proactive and forward-thinking and recognizing the importance of transportation. And then a huge thank you to Brad for creating what in the nation is by far the premier model, the premier system for asset management. We're able to help all of our counties in the state, and not just the larger counties or the counties that have larger engineering staffs. Bit of information this week, Monday. Brad did present to the county commissioners at their business meeting on GRIT, and he did a couple things. He let them know what it is, he let them know the status, and he asked them to be very thankful and appreciative to legislators so that they continue support for you, and it remains at a no out-of-pocket county cost. That's what our target is. And thank you, also a thank you for them for tapping into Andrew and Brad and our LTAP team as we ramp up our outreach in the field along with our office efforts. So we are here to help you. It's a long-term program. We want you to know that. And you've done the heavy lifting. You've put the data in, and now it's a little bit easier, but it does take your effort. So that's what we want to focus on today. And one last house cleaning item, maximize and minimize your screen. There's some arrows in the upper right above your screen. You can click in a large full screen and then escape or hit the return key and come back to this screen. So we're very lucky to have Brad here, for Brad to develop this. And for the next hour and a half, let's tap into his knowledge. Turn it over to you, Brad. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dale. Thanks for those kind words from you. And Dale has been really promoting and pushing this out there with the counties, and we appreciate that effort to get it out there and make sure you're seeing what's going on with it. So today for the agenda, I'm going to talk about a few things. What's new with GRIT? I think for most of us, we should have some experience with it from previous webinars and then using it over the last couple of years. So I'm not going to go into the details on how to do a lot of the functionality. I'm going to cover kind of the new things that we've done over the last summer. So generally in the summer, everybody's pretty busy. We pretty much took a break from GRIT, and we didn't really do a lot for outreach on it. But there are some things that have happened, and that's what we want to bring you up to date on. And to do that, I'm going to really just demo and walk through each of the layers that we have within GRIT. And so I'll kind of mention them as I go along. We have some new bridge data that we're working on, and Andrew Rucky's been working hard with some of our students to put in some bridge data for you, so we'll talk about that a little bit. That gives you a kind of a head start on your minor structures. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we should work on next. There are some poll questions that I'll be bringing up throughout the webinar. And then lastly, we're going to look at kind of what's new with the web maps that we've done. How do we use this data, and or how does the public use it, and others, how are they able to use what you're entering into the GRIT program? And then we'll have some question and answer time. With question and answers, like Dale said, just go ahead and type them in at any time in the question and answer section, and we'll get to those as they come in. I did want to mention we still have our steering team, although we have not been real active with it again over the summer when everybody's busy. We didn't bother anybody with that. So, but it is still there. It's still in place, and it's going to be used in the future again to when we determine if we're going to add new layers or do something different with the program. We want to kind of run it by this steering team, and the steering team is a good cross-section throughout the state that covers counties that have some GIS data and counties that don't really have anything at all. So we get some input from both of those areas. And then if anybody wants to get on that steering team, you can just let us know, and we can look at adding, or if somebody doesn't want to be on it anymore, you could also let us know. So what's new with GRIT? One of the things that came out last spring was a listserv. A listserv is really just a way where you can sign up for it, and you will receive emails from the listserv about new things that come out or questions that others might have. But it's just basically an email list. But what it does, it allows for your staff or other people to also be a part of that listserv. So it's so that's just not the county maintenance superintendent or the engineer getting an email. It'd be anybody that signed up. So it allows us to get out a quick message. And we'll probably be using that a little bit more now as we go into the year. But it's there for you. If you post a question to there, it doesn't immediately go to everybody. It would be reviewed by Andrew or I as to whether the question should go out to everybody or not. And then we would send it out. More than questions. It doesn't work real well for questions. It works a little bit better for if you're doing something unique in your county with GRIT and you want to share that with everybody, you can just post it to that listserv. So that's kind of a good tool that's out there now. The GRIT homepage has been updated, or at least put into place, and there you can see the address to it. And I'll hit that right away when we start the demo. And then there are some new data items that have come up. We have started putting this out in Minnesota a little bit, and we do get feedback from them. They might consider some items, and so we've had a few items added based on people having a lot of interest in that, and I'll try to hit those during the demo. And then also we've done some new web maps. Again, those are a lot of them are just kind of there as a demo purposes to show what we can do. We can continually update those and make them easier to use, or add other layers or data items to those web maps as we get requests as you are using those web maps. So, and again, bridge data, we'll talk about that. Leanna Emmer has been getting involved with GRIT a little bit, so when she's out there visiting the counties, she'll be able to sit down and talk with you about it and maybe help you enter some data in, or answer questions that you might have, and so that'll be a good resource to get around. And then Dale's working on actually having some other individuals being able to get out to the counties and work with you on GRIT, so that'll be a little bit new for us also. So I'm going to jump to the demonstration here, and we're going to start looking at some of this. So I'm going to share my screen. So everybody should be seeing the Upper Great Plains Transportation Institute homepage.
Looks good, Brad.
All right, thanks, Dale. So this is the web address. If you don't have anything bookmarked right now, then this is probably one you should put in there, ugpti.org. This will get you, there's a couple different ways to get to GRIT from here to that homepage, and I'll cover those. One of them is just in resources, and you'll see under resources there's an asset inventory toolkit. So you can click on that, and that would bring you to this home page. And I showed you this link earlier. Once you get here, if you don't already have it, you might want to bookmark that right to the top of your browser. We'll go back, and another way, a lot of you have the LTAP website probably hot linked already, or if you don't, you probably should have it. But under that, there's also a resources tab under the LTAP webpage, and under there's a GRIT link right in there. So both of them go to the same place. And I think you can also just do a search on it also if you want to put GRIT in, and it should get you to this page. So here you can see we did do a few different things where we've added some help videos onto this. Basically it's like a webinar. I'm just walking through the computer screen and going through an overview and navigation, how to use the tools, editing locations, then goes through each layers and kind of talks about each of the data items. And again, I'm not going to, in this webinar, I'm not going to go through those details. If you haven't looked at them already and you want to know more about editing locations, you can go ahead and do that. So, great. So then we also have our presentations in here that have been done over the years here, and like this one that we're doing now is being recorded. That would also be added here, so you can see that. And then up in the upper right is where we have our links to GRIT and our GRIT map viewers. So I'm going to come back to the map viewers. I guess I'll just open it real quick to mention that in here are where we have these web map viewers, kind of predefined ones set up. There's some for North Dakota, there's some of these for Minnesota for the pilot projects we've been doing. But the main one on top is going to view all the different layers, and then we have one for the 2016 needs study, the load restrictions for all the roads, including state highways, construction impacts, and a couple of city ones that were requested that we added on that are specific to the cities. So I'm going to go back, and I think what we'll do is just jump right into GRIT itself. GRIT, I don't think there's been a whole lot of changes here. We do, for the view-only mode, we can pick now the state and the county, and you'll go directly to that that county. But then again, and that's just for view only, so you can't edit the data. When you want to edit the data, there's the editor mode over here, and that's going to ask for an email ID and a password. And then there's a help screen. Again, those videos are out here. You can get to them from here. So under editor, I'm going to jump right into Stutsman County has done a pretty good job on entering some data on all their layers, or most of the data on all their layers. So I'm going to kind of use them. And since you maybe can't hear me, maybe that's a good thing then. So I'll log in directly to maybe you change the password real quick while we were waiting. Nope. So again, we're logging right in here to Stutsman County. The tools and everything are the same. We haven't done a lot with that. Again, it's Google Maps. One thing is on the lower right, there is the location button. So if you're out in the field with a laptop or a phone or whatever you have in the field, you will see your location on there. That wasn't working before, so if you've tried it once before, earlier this spring, it may not have worked, but now that is up and running again. One other thing that was added that is working now is that we had background layers, just some basic information that we have. We don't have everything in here. It's just to give you an idea of where some of the data is. So there's one for surface age, the total surface depth, one for surface type. And when you turn those on, it actually just puts a highlighted color over the road showing that data. There's also a legend on here that you can turn that on. So you can see I have surface type on. You can see the darker is the bituminous, and the light gray is that doesn't have anything entered in for surface type. but you can see there's some concrete over here in yellow, and there's some gravel here in brown. But it provides a good kind of an overview when you're working within the tool itself. When you really want to look at this data in the color-coded maps, you're going to want to go to the web maps. So I'm going to turn that legend off, and I'll just leave this on. So we're going to just pick, kind of start walking through the layers here, and hopefully I don't miss anything, but I'm going to start with construction segments. Again, you can see when we click on the layer, the pins representing the begin points of all the construction segments show up, and I'm going to turn on that surface type again. So you can see, so there's a pin. Now you kind of know that this is going to be a paved road up here. So it helps you kind of orient yourself and look at what you want to start working with. So again, we select a point for the data. It zooms into that section and highlights it, and then it shows the data on top here. So for this segment, and I'm going to hit edit right away so we can actually put some data in. So for this one, a couple of the new items that we do have, since if you haven't been in here in a while, is going to be your highway number. And I can enter that in here now. This wasn't here originally, so a lot of you that maybe put the data in last year or the year before might not have that in there. So it's a good thing to go back through and put that number in there. What that does is on the web maps, it puts a label on all the data, which is kind of handy because sometimes you can't see through the data to the background number. So if you have that in there, it will label on your web maps. There's also a calculated miles. So now when we enter the begin and end point, it'll actually calculate the miles for you and shows that up front here. And it does that as soon as you hit save if you change the begin or end location. The start and end points, that's all the same as it was before. And we can look at the last project surfacing. All these are pretty much the same. There may be a additional value in some of these. I'm not sure if we've added some from the summer on some of that, but most of the data items themselves are the same. So we can get in our bituminous type and put the year in, and surface depth and those types of items. Base, again, is the same. There really isn't anything new on that one. And then cross sections, where we have our shoulder widths and different things, those are all the same also. I think we added ownership so that if you are kind of tracking your township paved roads, which we're encouraging the counties to do, you can put township as the owner, or if you want to track any other roads, cities, small cities or whatever, you can put them as the owner if they are. And then right-of-way was also added, I believe, and that is going to be your total predominant right-of-way width for the whole segment of road. So generally it's about 66 feet or 100 feet on that.
Brad,
so
Brad,
yes.
Can I jump in?
Yes.
There seem to be a few people with audio difficulties. Chris or Denise, can you jump in and just do a quick overview of what they might want to do? And then can we type it in?
Yes, and I have typed to Wayne, or to Pete, so we are working on it in the background.
Yep.
Okay.
Dale, I've done the same thing, and Brad, as Brad pointed out earlier, they're not going to be able to hear us anyway. So we are chatting with them in the background.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Back to you, Brad.
All right. So with the construction segments now, we've gone through the summer. You've probably done a few projects in your county or city, and so now is the time to come back in where we have some time this fall and update that information. So to do that is really pretty simple. So we're just like I did here. If they had happened to have done an overlay here, I would just be clicking on it. I would come in and I would change the data, the year, change the total surface depth, and put on whatever the thickness of that overlay was. So it's really pretty quick to go in and update that information. If you happen to not overlay the whole segment. Let's just say if it's one where you're just doing part of it, you don't add a new segment to it. You basically edit the one that's there and change the begin or the end point, whichever you want to do. So in this case, if we had overlaid from 74th Avenue over to 77th Avenue and that was all we did, we would want to change the begin point of that segment. So we would just say start point, and we'd move that up over here to 77th Avenue, and we'd hit start point again. So that would move that segment to that location. And you can see one of the things you got to remember is that we have waypoints out there. Those need to be in between the begin and the end point. So we'd have to reset the waypoint and move it over here so it's in between the two. And you can see now that moved that segment of road over to 77th Avenue. So that would move it, and then so that part that we did overlay, now we can go back and we can just basically copy the attributes of this existing one and draw a new section in on that section. And then update that for the overlay. So that's just one way of doing that quickly, but the important thing to remember is we can't have overlapping segments, so we basically just split the segment and create a new one if that happens to happen. Most cases you're doing a project over the entire segment, because that's probably, if it was 30 years old, you're going to rebuild that whole section, so that's generally how it's happening. And I'm not actually going to save any of this just because I don't want to mess up Tyler's data. So that is just a quick overview on editing, and I'm going to hit cancel on this. So we don't edit it, but one thing I also wanted to talk about is, we'll go with this segment. I wanted to just talk a little bit about maintenance, and I'm going to make sure I have a paved road that I'm talking about. So let's turn on surface type. So let's just pick this one here. So this is a paved road, and there is, to do maintenance, we have that availability. Not many counties have done anything with maintenance, but there is an option up here, so we can be working on the inventory, which is what we just did, or we can talk about maintenance. So if you hit maintenance, there's an option, and it depends on if this road was bituminous, you're going to have some options for bituminous maintenance. If it was a gravel road, you'll have options for gravel maintenance, or concrete, it would be concrete maintenance items. So within the maintenance items, we can pick new, and you can put in multiple years if you want. If you've done a seal coat over this 7 years ago and you did it again last year, you can put in multiple records for that. So in this case, now we get out of the summer, we get some time in the winter. Now we're kind of just look at the maintenance we did over the year. We're not doing every time you go out there to do maintenance, you're going to kind of sum it up for the year. So if we happen to do a seal coat on here, I would just come in here and hit new, and you have types. You got seal coat, chip seal, sand seal, asphalt, microsurface, fog seal. So we can go ahead and select the one we want, put in the year, 217, let's say, and then the cost per mile, if you want to put that in, and then completed by is for if you're doing it yourself, or if contractors are doing it, you can put that information in. So then you just save that information, and that would be in here then for this road. And if it changes or something's wrong, you can always hit edit and change that information. But you can go back if you want and put in previous ones that you remember. The main one in here is seal coating, is where you really probably want to track when you're doing seal coating on your paved roads. Crack sealing is in here if you want to see when you're starting to, if your costs are really going up in the later years, you might want to have that in here, and you can see that then and use that in your decisions on whether you're going to do an improvement or not. And then patching is also in here. So we can keep track of that. Again, that was for a paved road. The other thing that's you got to remember is gravel roads. We have some counties that have entered in some of their gravel information, and I'm going to go back to inventory. And let's turn on surface type again. So, for example, here's a gravel road here, and you can see Stutsman County put in. They just put the segment in there, so they didn't really fill in the information about it. But you can do that. It's just like a paved road. You're going to put in surfacing. It's going to be a gravel surface. And then you can put in all the information that goes along with that if you want. So when it was resurfaced last or re-graveled last, the type, the depth and the cost and those types of things. But again, you can go into the maintenance on that, and well, it won't. It's actually not going to show it here yet. And well, yes, it is. So I got gravel, re-graveling. I got reshaping, spot repairs, and dust control. So this would be where you'd wanna, if you are doing some dust control out there, you're gonna wanna kind of track that, and so you can do that in here, whether you're putting mag chloride on or calcium chloride or other things. So, but again, maintenance has not been done a lot in the counties, and it's probably more of a matter of timing because we didn't have the maintenance abilities in there till later in the year last year, and of course, it's not going to happen over the summer. I think where we're looking at that is that you kind of hit that at the, at the end of the summer or into the winter, where you got some time to actually put that information in to look at that. So I'm gonna with construction segments and the maintenance, and I touched on gravel roads are there for you to enter in, and that's one of the things I would encourage you to go back in and do now. All your paved roads are already in there, so it's just a matter of updating those if something changes. But if you have time now, I would encourage counties to go ahead and put their gravel roads in, at least for sure the gravel roads on federal aid, county major collectors, but all your county roads, you could put them all in there so you have a inventory of everything. So I'm going to jump to a survey. Let's see here. So I have a poll. It's kind of on the construction segment layer, but it's dealing with whether you're going to do some maintenance or not. So I'm going to open that poll here. Hopefully you can see it. And I'm going to let it run for just a couple of minutes here. There should be a multiple choice list that you can pick an answer from. And the question is, do you plan to update the maintenance data in the future?
It looks good, Brad. I can see it.
Okay. And I would, if you're a consultant out there representing a county, go ahead and fill it in on what you think they might do on there if you want, if the county's not already on the webinar. And if you got any questions or comments on that poll or want to throw something else out there on it, you can just go ahead and put that in your chat box or your question and answer box. So I have, we're going to close that here in a few minutes here, but yes, I gave 2 minutes. Hopefully that was enough, but we can, looking at the results, we're looking at that, yes, there is plans to do that for both gravel and paved on quite a few counties, and then for pavement for the other ones. There's a few counties not sure yet, but so we want to just encourage you, if you need help on that area, that's where we can come in, just ask us any questions on that, and hopefully we'll start getting some of that maintenance information in. Again, it's something that you're going to want to do at the end of the year when you get time later in the fall before the blizzards start and you're plowing 2 feet of snow, but somewhere in there, hopefully there's a little time to get that information in. So I'm going to save that, I think. All right, so let's jump back then back to the demo, and I'm going to jump into owner load limits is the next layer that we wanted to talk about a little bit. We have, most of the counties have their load restrictions in, and some of them don't. Some of them don't actually put load restrictions on the road or don't actually show them on a map or anything, so they don't know what they are. But hopefully we will get the rest of the counties added in here prior to, February sometime, so that they're available for the spring load restrictions this upcoming year. As far as the data itself, again, we can pick on these roads, and there is really no new data items that I've added in here. There is ownership. We do, that's optional for you to put that in there if you want, functional class, the roadway type, that type of information. And then the load limits themselves, there's probably a few options added into the gross weight. One thing we don't have yet included in here is anything on 129.9, and I don't think that's going to be affecting the counties anytime soon here, but we will add some of those options in if that becomes something that might happen. So those values are there for the seasonal spring load restrictions, the gross weight, and the year-round load restrictions. You can put that information in. And again, I encourage you to get in there and get that load restriction information in. When I show you the web maps, you'll start seeing it on a statewide basis, which is where this really becomes helpful, in that you can go from county to county or city to county, however you want, and the trucker who's ever looking at that public web map can see what the load restrictions are and how they change across county lines. It also helps you to determine where you want to set yours, because maybe you want to try to line up with the county next door so that you all have the same load restrictions. And let's see here. So there wasn't a whole lot new on the load restrictions, and I do have another survey question on that I'm going to add right away. So that's going to be, first of all, does your county set load restrictions? And because some of them don't, so I think it's helpful to know that. And then how do you convey your load restrictions to the public? And you can answer those, and I think you can select multiple ones if you want on that. So once you go ahead and answer those questions, I put 2 minutes on that, Dale. Do you think that's a little not enough time, or I can go back and edit some of those to change them back to more time?
That's plenty of time, Brad.
All right.
And then you've got a really good one here with the Western Dakota Energy Association, the 19 western counties. And is that possibly a place where you'd enter data? And just so everybody knows, Brad is working with WDEA and figuring out how to have one location where you enter the different data fields like this. So he's working on that. We're not trying to create extra work for you. I know that he's got that going in the background. Our steering committee's been very good at giving us guidance and feedback on that.
All right, so that 2 minutes is out on that one. We have poll results here. And, you know, the majority of everybody on this call, of course, we don't have all the counties in here, so, but mostly everybody has that set county load restrictions. And then we're, there's a kind of an even mix across the board here. There's a couple using the grit for the display, and that when we look at the web maps again, I'm going to talk about that, where you can just put that link to the grit web map on your website so that the public can then see the load restrictions for your county. But I'll talk about that a little bit. And then WDA, of course, for our western counties out there, mostly are all using that. And then but there are some that are just using the newspaper and radio, so we just want to make it available that you can use these web maps as a method. As long as you're putting the data in here, you might as well show it then on the web maps, or it's automatically shown on the web maps then in that case. I thought I saw a question from somebody. Do you have that one, Dale?
I don't, Brad.
I thought Sharon put something out there. Huh. Leanna Emmer says yes. So somewhere I'm missing it. I don't see it on my screen, the questions that are coming across.
I'll keep looking, Brad. I'll let you know when I
find
find
that,
it.
I'm going to continue on here then. So that was the owner load restrictions, and now we'll talk a little bit about construction planning. So this again was a kind of new one. After we got all the data for the need study, the existing data, we wanted to give the ability to put in the, your construction planning for the future. So being able to know where projects are being done, know the status of them, be able to show when roads are closed and different things like that. So this is this layer that was created, and you can see in Stutsman County we do have some projects in, and I'm going to just pick on those so we can see the data behind them. So construction planning, we have same deal with where you can put the highway number in. Again, if you have a chance, I would suggest going back in and at least entering the highway number for all the ones you have in there, just so those labels show up. And then for project info, we have the type of project, and I know some of the stuff that was done here is that we added different types of projects, and some of this was added in since the spring. So if we have a safety project, a maintenance project, bridge rehab, something other than those standard 4 that we used before, you can put those in. And in this case, we're putting in maintenance. That, when you select maintenance, you also get a type of maintenance project. So you can put it if it's a seal coat, patching, re-gravel, or other. You can put that in here. And there is also another option available. So if you have a project and you want to put it on your map and it's just not in any of these categories, you can hit other, and then you can actually type in what that project would be. We don't we don't encourage that. Hopefully it'll fit within one of the other categories because it's difficult to then label and show color-coded maps if we got unique names in here in the description. So on the color-coded maps, it would just say other. So, and I'm going to leave this on maintenance. So now we can put in our seal coats and track what's going to happen up here in the future. If there's a project number, you can put that in. Planned year, that's probably the most important one in that item. And then we get into the project status. So this one's planned for 2018. So the status, I'm assuming, is still planned. But this is where, on this layer, we start to get in to, if we're going to track this data and you're going to put it in, then you probably need to log into here quite often, once a week, or have your technicians log in once a week, or your consultant or whoever is working on the project, and update the project as it changes throughout the summer. So when this project goes to under construction, you're going to want to put that in. Or if it didn't have funding at one time, now you do have funding committed, you can change it to that. When it's completed, you're going to want to go in and mark that it's completed. Or if it's on hold for till the next year or something, you can mark it as on hold. And anytime you change that, you're going to be looking at putting in the status date. And there's just a little calendar to pop up, and you can just hit the current date. Whenever you change the status, you want to, that helps us know if the data is being kept up to date and if it's current. And then you have estimated total cost, final total cost, and then the owner data that can go in here. And then the next tab over is the public impacts, and this is again kind of the one that if we're really going to keep this up to date, I guess our goal would be to have this right on the North Dakota DOT, the 511 map, or their construction map that they have. They can just point right to this data and show it on top of that map, but the key to that is going to be only if it's up to date. And so this is one that we want to get in here quite frequently and go ahead and update this information. So this allows us to put the actual construction start date in. So if it isn't starting until August, and it actually does start, then that's what you want to put in. So then the public would know, I don't have to worry about this until it actually starts, and then the actual construction end date goes in here. Public impact then is what you're going to see on kind of the status map on the website, whether the road's closed, you got reduced speeds, detour in place, there's a pilot car, 1 lane, or construction not started. But again, that's the one you want to kind of look at weekly and keep that up to date. And then if there's any width restrictions, you can put those in. And again, the impact notice date, when you change that, detour length can go in. There's been some questions about adding in option to actually draw the detours in. And in a future version, we might be looking at that to include that. The other thing that was added is a comments field, so you can go ahead and if there's something unique going on with the project, you can always keep them up to date in that, right in that comments field. And then lastly is a finance tab, where you're looking at the different funding sources you have, and then the percentage of that estimate is shown here, and then whether it's committed or not. And this committed or not, so if you got it in your plan, you get $1 million every year. Most of you don't, but if you did, it would be committed funding because it's in your budget to do that. If it's something you're just kind of looking at, I wish we could do this project, but there is no funding, then you'd mark it as no, and then we'll be looking at, right now we're showing all the projects, but we will look at putting in a filter on that so we don't show the ones that there's no funding and you don't know that they're actually going to happen. So that is on our construction segments. And let's see if I missed anything. Update. So I do have another survey questions, but I still see another pop-up came up about a question. So I'm going to see if I can find that. Oh, here it is. So they're in the chat box, Dale, is where those questions are coming, not in the question and answer box.
Yeah, and so everyone, and also Brad, they're coming probably directly to you. Only to you. If you use the question and answer and reply to all, then I can grab the questions and comments and pass them on to Brad as he's going through. That'd be the smoothest if you could.
All right, so I'm just looking back here quick through these questions. Sharon is looking for another survey. We use ArcGIS maps. Oh, and another option in the survey would be that they use ArcGIS maps handed out at elevators and websites and newspapers. So that's just another method. But thank you for that information. And Leanna, quick comment. Yes, the GRIT program does show the legal gross vehicle weight also. Or you can enter that in anyway, and then that would be shown on the web maps. And then, did you want to mention? Right, so gross vehicle weight, both for the spring load restrictions and now on the year-round information. So both of those, and I think I touched on both of those pretty quickly, but yes, those are both available for you to enter that information in. Okay, so back to the construction planning. I do have a quick survey question on that one also, and I'll pop that open here, pulling. So, and I touched on this a little bit, but basically I'm just trying to find out if it's going to be a possibility for your counties to keep that construction data up to date, the status anyway of the project as they continue. So I have a question here. Can you regularly update the construction data? And that's just a yes, no on that. And then if no, how can it get done, or is there suggestions on how we can make sure that that information can be updated regularly? So I'll let you answer those couple of questions. But ideally on updating that, it would be who's ever out in the field working on that project so that we really have the up-to-date information, and that can be done from a phone or an iPad or whatever is out there, just to quickly update the status on those projects. I think I have an other option there if you want to type in if you have some other suggestions.
Brad, are most of the counties, when you look at the overall map, using the construction planning layer right now?
Pretty good chunk are, but usually it's just putting them in at the beginning of the year, all the projects, and then but they're not necessarily updated all the time. I'm going to talk about Cass County a little bit, where they actually just point to the data from their construction map, so they are keeping theirs up to date regularly because it's already on their county webpage. But so they have somebody going into GRIT and updating it when anything changes. So that was one county that I know kept it all the time up to date. So this poll.
So Brad, one thing that we didn't expect was that the DOT, Terry Whale and his team asked for this layer so that they had a visual cue on where jobs were coming up each year to help them plan their traffic counters so they could do a better job for the counties as they're disseminating their crews around. So there's all kinds of applications for this data that, at first you won't think of, but having it accurate and live helps out an awful lot.
Right. So we can see our results there, and we have quite a few that will be able to regularly update the data. Some it's not, they're not just not able to. But I think we're looking at, again, assigning that to, if there's a consultant managing the project, that might be a good thing to assign to them to keep that up to date. And then, or other county employees. There's quite a few answers there, and I don't see any suggestions. So, that's kind of where we're at with that. And hopefully, we'll, as more and more of the maps get available on the websites, on 511 or other sites where the public is really using it, and it's going to be more important that you get in there weekly and keep that information up to date. But again, if you want to just use it for your long-range planning and future planning and not so much for the keeping it up to date, you can also, it's definitely a good tool for doing that. So I'm going to talk about bridges here now a little bit, minor structures, and we do have some new items in here to talk about. And again, Stutsman County did put in some structures in here. I'll just pick one for an example. And let's turn on satellite. So we can see then bridge data. We did add some different types. One is if it's a bridge on the NBI, that's the National Bridge Inventory that the state comes in and does your inspections on them. Those that are 20 feet or greater, you can indicate it as such, or you can indicate it as just a bridge on your county system, box culvert, pipe culvert, arch, cattle pass, cattle guard. And there was some changes with the cattle pass and cattle guard to get those terms straight, so those are in there now. And then the rest of the data items are pretty much the same, where you can put in the material and the dimensions, different things like that, replacement cost. And again, there's an owner field on here. If you want to track those township bridges, you can go ahead and put in if they're the owner or not. Condition values are the same. There's an overall structure one. That's probably the more important one that you're going to want to put in. And then here's an example of where if you are going to put in the condition ratings, make sure you put in the date that you're doing that, because they don't, if it's something that hasn't been rated or looked at for a long time, you're going to want to know that. So you get out there and take another look at them in the future. So that's a really important item to put in there. And then signing, whether it's posted or not, again, that will become important too, is if we start using some of this information with the permitting for load limits for truck weights and things. This might be one of the data items that they're going to also want to use in those decisions. So those are most of the new items. And Andrew, I'm going to let you talk just a little bit on what we're adding in here. So you can see here that Stutsman County added in some of their bridges, but Andrew, go ahead and talk about the new data.
So a majority of counties, a few that we know had already put in their data and have all their minor structures, will not be seeing this added to their information. But for counties like Kidder, sitting right next to Stutsman, granted we can't see if they have any, but Stutsman put in some of theirs. They'll have additional bridges put in. But we went and tracked down data that's 30 years old, but again, that's the most recent data we have for minor structures. And we are working on, with one of our grad students, this was a bigger project than we anticipated, getting at least the initial information of where they're located and basically just where they're located put into the system. So we are working with getting an upload of an array of, instead of looking like these green pins, it would be an array of blue pins. They, Brad, just so you know, CAS has the information in, but not in the grid system. Um, but they would, we will be populating every county within the state of North Dakota with initial information for you to at least have an idea of, where all these bridges were 30 plus years ago. Some of you have kept up your information on where minor structures are located, and you can add that information in. But basically, it'll be like when we first made the initial drop down of paved roads, where it'll be blue pins populating your map, and you can click on those blue pins to modify information. So if you know that there is a bridge there where we did put it there, and it was installed in the 1960s, you can go through that way. Did have a question come through.
Yeah, so the question is, how do I get an email and a password to edit grit? And so you might want to answer in are they representing a certain county? Who has that password, and how should they take care of the password? Maybe you could help them that way, Brad or Andrew.
So the password is set up for the agency lead. So the county or city engineer is set up with that password, and that the username is generally their email. But and then that maintenance superintendent or county engineer, whoever that is, they can distribute that to whoever they want to have editing the data. So it's the same one for that county that gets used. So if they have a consultant working for them on the project or whatever, they would have to give them the username and the password, and then they could have to update the data. Then they also have the ability to change that password and reset it. So if they want to change it, if they had somebody that knows it and they don't want it any longer, then they can just reset their password and update it.
And Brad, what if somebody forgets their password, or that person, that lead, moves on?
There's a reset button. So when you hit the password reset, it's going to email to that whoever is in there has the email address. It's going to email them to reset the password. If there is a change in the lead, then we're kind of relying on Dale or somebody to let us know that there has been a change, and then we can reset the username of it and get that back out to the county.
And then, and that's a good point. We've got a couple new leaders in the county, in the different counties in the state, and what some of them are doing is they're secondary. They have that main point of contact, not necessarily the road superintendent or road engineer, but somebody else on staff, and then the road superintendent or engineer are in the copy list of your listserv, so they're getting all the information, but they're secondary on that. And that's a pretty good format to run, right?
Yep. I had one other question also on the chat that Lori had. If we have sign and culvert program in GIS, can that info be uploaded into grit? Yes, the initial time, if you have a file that has the GPS coordinates of your structures or your culverts, we can upload that. Sometimes it's a little hard to make your data match the layers the data that we have. So sometimes it may just be the coordinates and some of the basic information that you have might tie together. It's kind of a process to do that, so we haven't been encouraging that a whole lot. But when you do that, you still have to go in, just like Andrew was talking about. They'll come in as there'll be a blue pin. You have to click on each one of them, verify that the data is correct and the location and everything, and then you hit save, and then it'll be in there. So you still have to go in and kind of click and edit the data a little bit on each one. So some counties, if there aren't a lot, it's just as easy to go in and re-enter them in right into grit directly. But yes, we can upload them, and you can email us about that if that's something you want to move forward with. So with the structures, I think I had a quick pull on that. No, we did that one already. Never mind. So now I've had, kind of went through each of the layers here, and I think we want to jump over and talk a little bit, now that we have the data in, let's talk about how we use it a little bit and what we can do with it. That's probably the more important part right now is that the data is all there. It's there for you, and it's there for you to use. So how do we look at it? How do we use it? So back to that home page, we have something called the GRIT map viewers, and we're going to click on that. Again, I showed you this a minute ago, but there's several example web map applications that we put out there that show information about the data. And I'll start with GRIT viewer all layers, and we're at 11 o'clock, so I have a half an hour, so I'm going to probably go through this a little quicker than I intended initially, but you'll get the point. And the one thing about these GRIT layer, these web map viewers, is you can't break anything. So you can't edit anything here, you can't do anything here. So just click away on whatever you want, and that's the best way to just figure out what it's doing. So this GRIT all layers view that we have here, you can put this link right on your web page if you want other people to look at kind of see all the data. This one is a little more complicated in that all the layers are there, so it's probably not the best for just the general public, but it'd be great for your staff and for the county's commissioners and those types of people that have some idea on what they want to look at. But one of the things that we've added to this is a way to just pick a county. And so there's a drop-down list with all the counties and cities in North Dakota, and you can pick that. What that'll do, it'll query it out of the data, so that'd be the only one you're looking at, that county. Everybody else will go away. If you want to just leave it on the statewide view, you just close this menu. And then if you had picked a county earlier and you want to go back, you can just hit this reset button and it'll go back to statewide. So let's just go ahead and, since we were in Stutzman, I'll jump back over to that one again, just to show you how that works. Currently, we have an upgrade we need to do, but it will zoom in on the county also, but right now it doesn't, so you have to kind of zoom into that county. But you can see you're not seeing anybody else's data other than Stutzman's right here. So if you wanted to print this map out, there's a print button over here that you could print it and not see everybody else's data with it. And then the main item here is the layer list, and there's two buttons over here. One is to select a county, one is to bring up that layer list. And I'm going to turn that on, and basically it's just check boxes to turn the layers on and off as you want and what you want to look at. The data is also set up to do some, as you zoom in, it'll turn on and off. So if I zoom back out, I'm not seeing the bridges, but as I zoom in, the bridges all come on that were entered. And the other thing, whatever's turned on over here on the layers shows up in the legend over here. So you can see we have construction planning on, and we can click on construction planning. You'll see some sub-layers. So we're seeing the current construction year. So that's public impact, what's going on. So you can see if it's no impacts is a light green, road closed is a red. And then the planned improvements, and you can turn these on and off. So that's the thing, you just checking layers on and off. You can see they go off on the map. They also come out of the legend as you turn them on and off. So right now I'm just looking at current year construction. I can turn that off and go back to the planned improvements and look at that. So they got a lot of maintenance projects entered in, a couple of overlay projects. Again, as you zoom in, the labels come on to show the year. And then with bridges, I'm going to turn off your construction plan. With bridges, you can see other information's coming on here. So there's a GRIT structure condition rating over that pops up in the legend. That is where you're entering in, the condition of those structures as you rate them. And you zoom in a little bit further, and you can see the age of the structure pops up as a label. So basically, what you can do now is look at this. You can see the condition of it. You can see the type of project. It's a bridge. It's a bridge NBI. Bridge, and the age of it, and where it's at. And as you zoom in, other layers come on from the from the Google Maps. So so it's kind of a quick way to really see a lot of information. And of course, you can always click on the bridge itself and see everything that was entered into grid also in that way. So so that's bridges. And if you click on the bridges, you'll see you can turn on different sublayers of that. So if you wanted to know the material that you're using out in your county, you can turn off your structure condition, turn on the material. You can see a lot of these are concrete that he has here. But again, you'd see your whole county and what you have for materials. And that's based on whatever you entered into grid. And again, the second you entered into grid and hit save, it's updated on these web maps. So these are always up to date. And the items draw from the bottom to top. So whichever one you have on is showing over the top of the other one. So so I'm going to close up bridges again, and again, it's all a matter of just checking these boxes on and off on what you want to see. Construction planning, we touched on that just a little bit. There's also, the construction year status. So remember there was a field on there for status that showed if it's completed, planned, on hold, or no info. So these are all showing up as completed, so he has them up to date. So that's for construction planning. I'm going to turn that off. Construction history, we've turned that one on, and that is basically going to show the data items from your construction history or segment layer. So the first one on is the pavement age. You can get a quick look at how old the pavements are. Anything red is pretty old, 26 or greater, and you can see those. You can check that off and turn on surface type. You're not seeing the gray because that's not available. That wasn't entered in, but if you'd put in gravel on those, it would all show up as brown. You can turn on shoulder width if you want to. Biker groups or anybody who wants to get an idea of where you have wider shoulders, things like that, you can turn this one on. And surfacing depth, another one, so you can see where you have pretty thin pavements and pretty thick pavements in your county. And then these next two are kind of interesting if you entered the data, and Stutzman didn't quite put that in there yet, but that is on those gravel roads. If you do dust control, you can now see that on here on the map. If you do the gravel surface type, so now you can see in your legend if you have gravel class 13 and you have dust control on it, that's how it would show up on the map. It'd be outlined with the red line. And he does have one gravel road entered in here, so that's a class 13 road. It's got a gray on it, so he didn't enter in whether it had any surface treatment on it or not. But that's kind of a handy. Once you start getting all your gravel roads in, now you can keep track of where you have dust control. You can show that to the public. You can do other things with that information. And then the last one on here was just the right-of-way. So these are just ones we picked that I guess I picked them because they had kind of some of the better value in seeing these information. But any data item in all that grid data that you entered can be shown on here. So if you want to show where you have inslopes, and really steep inslopes, we could add that on here. And I will add that just based on requests and popularity. If somebody really thinks we want to show the inslopes, or it'd be useful to have a color-coded map, then we would just add that in here to this list. So that's construction history. I'm going to close that back up, and you just click on the text to close them up or open them up. And I'll turn that off. Load restrictions, so we'll click on that, and you can see we have the proposed load restrictions showing here. There's also the load year-round load restrictions you can turn on. Again, they're drawn from bottom to top, so the dashed line is going to be your spring load restriction, and it's drawn over the other one. So, and then we have spring gross weight. Deanna talked about that. So you can see what your gross vehicle weight is on the roads. You can turn those on and off. We don't have one here for the year-round, but I could add that if that's something we need. So that's basically the load restrictions as they are right now. And again, we can add other data items to this as we want. The one thing you'll know on with load restrictions is we don't put in when they're in effect or not. That's kind of a difficult thing to do, but it's something we could add, and we may look at that in the future as there's a way to just turn them all on at once. The reason they're not in there is because you don't want to go in and pick each segment of road and then say whether it's on or not. That would be just a lot of work, and we don't want to have to do that. We want to make that automated if we do anything like that at all. So right now it's showing the proposed spring load restrictions, which is what you do now. If you got a map on your website, that's all that's ever shown is the proposed load restrictions, and then right on your website you would put in whether they're in effect or not. And then we have some of the need study data collection that we had, so pavement condition. So you can show that as kind of a background layer. This is the pavement condition from when we ran it in 2015. Good, fair, poor. And that's showing up behind load restrictions. That doesn't make sense, so we'll turn that off. But we can turn on our pavement age, which would make more sense. So now you can see if you got really old road and it's not in that bad a condition, you can see that, or however that works out. Some of the roads have been done, like this one's green, meaning it's only 0 to 5 years, so it was paid since we did the data collection in 2015. So you can verify the data together when you have it all up to date.
Brad, we do have a question. Is there a way that you can export the data?
So we don't export to like a shapefile or things like that. We're really trying to not do that, because as soon as we export the data, it's no longer tied to the live updates that are being done to grit. So it's old data the minute you export it. We'd rather have you come in here and use these web mapping tools, or as I'll explain, you can point if you have your own web mapping, you can point to the data and it'll show up on your own web maps. And I'm going to show that with Cass County. But the other thing we can add in here is, and I don't have it turned on, where we can open the table below here for this data. So if you have construction planning on, it'll pop, oops, I don't have anything on. It'll pop open a table down here, and then you can download that data, and it's just the direct data to a spreadsheet. So then you can see, you can sort them or do whatever you want with the data in the table, or make a graph or whatever. I don't have that on just because that gets a little more complicated, and we didn't think we're quite ready to start doing that with the data, but that is something we'll be adding, is to open up that table and be able to download the data itself. So hopefully that answers that question. So that's really it for the main grid viewer, and like I said, this being able to select a county. If you want to reset that and go back to statewide, you can just hit the reset. Now you can see the data across the state. And then this layer list are kind of added to this one. Some of the other web maps that we have that we didn't, that don't have those tools in them yet, but they are still there. The need study, I'm not going to go into that. Hopefully you've looked at that. But load restrictions is one I wanted to talk about a little bit, because this one's set up more for the public. You can see there's a splash screen comes up that these restrictions are proposed only, and you have to see the website or newspaper to see the effective dates. And then not all counties show their load restrictions. Hit OK. And it looks like a busy map right now because it's actually showing the state highways and the state spring proposed load restrictions. They're a little different type of a line. They're a solid line with a dash in them. When you zoom in, you can see a little bit better how that works out. So you can see that green with the state highway is by legal weight proposed load restriction. And you can see all the counties around Ransom and Sargent have their data in. Sargent's starting to enter some of their load restrictions in. But now you can see the load restrictions as you cross county lines, how do they match up? And Trucker can see that. It's kind of helpful to have all of your load restrictions today in one web map that they can just access right from their smartphone or wherever they're accessing it from. But this layer from spring load restrictions for the county roads coming right from GRIT, we're just pointing to that. And then DOT also puts theirs out in a web service, kind of like we do. So we're just pointing to their data. So theirs is up to date. Whenever they make a change, it's continually up to date. And they do have the active spring loader, so they'll turn to a solid line when they become active. Ours will always the counties will just show the dash line, meaning they're proposed. And then when you click on a road, is another interesting part. You can see the information about the load restrictions, but there's also, for data questions, a more info. If you click on that, it goes right to the county website. And we have every county website in here, so it'll go to your website. And then you can go into the road department or whatever and look at the legal weights and whatever information you have. If they're on or not, that would tell you what's going on with them. So generally, the home pages always get a notice that says load restrictions are in effect. So that's how you would go in and find out if they're on or off. So that's load restrictions. I wanted to touch on that just a little bit. And I'm going to jump to, I'm running out of time, but I'm going to jump to construction impacts. And again, it's just a simpler map. It's just basically got the legend up here. You can't really select a bunch of layers or anything. So again, this is a web address. You would just put that on your website, and they can see statewide then what the road construction is during the current year. So here you can see where, yes, it's important to update. So some of these probably are not active projects. They're probably done, and they should probably have no impacts on them, or they shouldn't even show up on here because they're not active anymore. So it's going to be important to keep that information up to date. And then again, with the counties, if they have their own web mapping, you can just point to our data server that we have and to the layers that you want to look at. And as an example, I'm going to pull up Cass County here, or drag it over here in front of your screen. If I can find road and bridge construction. In here they have, you can put up just a permanent map that comes in up front on top that is always updated, or they have the interactive map. But they've always had this interactive map, and what am I doing here? That it's built in ArcGIS Online, so some of those counties that have these tools, ArcGIS Online and others, you can use the data directly from GRIT also. So this is their map, this is their construction map. They have a splash screen. I close that, and you can see then all the GRIT construction layers here. Basically, they just get a web address from us, and if you want to do this, you can contact us to get that. They put that into their ArcGIS Online map, and then our data from GRIT shows up on here. When their tech updates it from active to no impacts to road closed, the second he hits save, this map is then updated on their website. So any public looking at it would see that change. They also have some DOT data that again is coming from the DOT server directly, and then they have some of their own data that they put in. So they put their own detours in here, and they draw them in, so now they can see the detours with the data. But all the data is coming right from GRIT, and as soon as you hit save on it, it's updated on these public maps. So on that question whether you can download the data, we're trying to encourage that you use these services, kind of live services, so that the data is always up to date. You're always looking at the most current information that's in GRIT. I had a couple of polls, and we got 10 minutes left. And let's see here.
And while you're loading that poll, Brad, Shirley passed on a nice tidbit, and that is anytime you want to view this data or use it, you can use a snipping tool on your computer and grab the data for the commissioners or the public. Thank you, Shirley.
All right. So this is just a quick one. I'm going to open up just asking who is updating your data for GRIT. And this will help us kind of know who to if there's some others we need to target to help them get training and things. So this would be a helpful survey if you can kind of let us know who is updating the grid, or if you are in your county. And I see I left 4 minutes on this one, but I'm going to close it a little early manually. So
Brad, can they enter multiple for this one?
I believe so.
Perfect.
I'm not sure on that though. And I can't, what I'm viewing is just the results. So
I just tested it. You can.
you
You
know,
can enter multiple if you have more than one person working on it.
and Reed wanted me to look at Steele County Road 23. I'm going to assume it's this one. See, Reed had a question to look at Steele County Road 23. I'm assuming it's this one, and this is where you'd go into grid and change that. Right now it's showing a road closed, and I'm assuming the project's probably done. That you would go in and change that to completed and update the information on that segment of road when you have a chance on that. And I think Grand Forks is on the line too. We did put in quite a bit into the future planning and some of the current projects, and I'm not sure if you're keeping that up to date as far as the construction planning or not. I know there's some projects in there, but it might be a really slow year. I don't know. So let's close this poll here. It's given a few seconds to.
So Brad, you mentioned that Grand Forks might be on. They are, and we've got a couple other cities. Thank you. We have the 14 largest cities that you've been working with to enter data. And just a reminder to everybody that the tribal roadway network should also be in here. We've invited all the tribes to enter. So if you work with any of them, and Paul, you might be helping on some right now, Darren, but please extend that invitation to them and
so we got a pretty good mix on the staff. But one thing I would note is office staff. Sometimes they can really help you out, your office staff, on getting this information in, and a lot of the counties are actually doing that. And you know, when you have only a few people in the county and some are out blading roads and working out there on projects, that's a good option for you to get the information in. The tool was developed to be really easy to use and enter in information. You don't have to know how to survey or anything else. You can go ahead and put the information in. You can pick the begin and end points of the projects. If they have the data, they can enter it in. So I can see there's 7 out of here that are actually doing it that way. So I encourage that to continue. And last question I have is going to be just something on new layers. If you have just an idea on some things you might like us to consider in the future, we could go ahead and answer here, some things that would be nice. And this is a multiple choice one, so you can pick as many as you want there. But signs we talked about in the past to add a signs layer. There are some good programs out there already that some counties are using. And so we were thinking that's probably sufficient, but then there may be a lot of counties that are still interested in that, and it was something we could add. Pavement striping. We do mark in the projects whether it has edge line or center line, but if you wanted to track more of where does the double stripe start and end and things like that, that's something we could consider. And then links to images of the plans. That one would be a little more difficult, but it is something that we could maybe start to look at. There you got to deal with the storage of all those plans somewhere on our server, and we don't know how much data that would start to get into, but that's something we can consider. And then pavement condition and forecasting is something that we will be working on, and we're just trying to figure out how we can fund that end of it. But that will start to allow us to say, based on what projects you put in to your 5-year plan or into the construction planning layer, what will the pavement condition be 10 years from now based on the projects that you're doing, and then all the other data that you put in. So that will be coming. And then traffic volume data also is another one that the state has a lot of that data, so we can point to their layer and show it right on top of the web maps. Some counties collect their own traffic data, so there might be some options in there to put in your own data that you collect. And I'll give this one just I'm going to close this now. And so you can see a lot of interest in those last ones, and I think those are ones that we're going to be moving forward with for sure. The pavement condition data and traffic data, and signs is something we're going to have to look at and try to get a little more impact maybe from the steering committee on that one. So I don't know. Hopefully you were asking questions as we went along because we're just about out of time. But if you got any last-minute questions or items you want to throw out there, please feel free to shoot those out now.
I want to pass on a huge thank you, Brad and Andrew. Thank you for jumping in. They are the two experts in the state for our asset inventory. Most often they're in the Fargo office. They're only a phone call and email away. They are doing a bit of outreach. We're going to try to expand our outreach. We've got Leanna on our LTAP team. She is going to be out helping along with our LTAP team as we can fit it in. We want to make sure that you're able to use the system. We'll help enter. We will make sure that you're rolling with this. We know that you're not using it every day. Brad and Andrew make it look really simple. When you come in intermittently, it's not difficult. You just need a little time to refresh. We'll help you with that. And so thank you, Brad, Andrew, and then Chris and Denise in the background managing this. Big thank you to you. And if you're going to Rapid City, Brad's going to have a booth there. You can spend time with them. You can, if you're on the bus, you get to spend more time with them. And with that, I want to say a very big thank you to the steering committee and all of our participants today. That concludes our webinar. Thank you very much. It'll be online very shortly. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.